Welcome back to my channel, Famous and Fabulous. Catherine, the woman I married, is the love of my life. Catherine Ross. Catherine Ross is married. Even at 80, Sam Elliott's appears the portion. The stare, the voice, the silent power. He is viewed by the public as the cowboy who never got off, his horse. But something changed behind the scenes. Fans witnessed a man at the height of his abilities, but Sam was quietly losing everything. His life started to come to light piece by piece, not all at once or in the news, and it wasn't caused by age, failure, or even notoriety. It was far more difficult to fix and much more personal. Something that subtly eroded his wealth, his pride, and his tranquility. No one could see the cracks at first, but eventually they became noticeable. He continued to show up, work, and smile, but the burden he bore never left his body. The boy who was not expected to arrive. Sam Elliott was a modest child from Sacramento who grew up in a household that prioritized hard work over aspirations, long before the Hollywood lights. His mother was a state diving champion before becoming a strict educator. His father worked for the government, tracking wild animals, tough, unyielding, and unimpressed by dreams. Sam spent his days riding his bike past the fairgrounds, fishing in chilly rivers, and exploring the mountains in their backyard, which was filled with flower beds and beehives rather than screenplays and studio lights. He had no desire to become famous. He was trying to get home before the sunset. He followed his father into the Sierra Nevadas, where he learnt to interpret streams like maps and routes like novels. He was more than just bonded to nature by such journeys. They sowed a deeper seed. It's a quiet toughness, a serene strength that you don't learn in school. However, he experienced an early change in himself. He uttered it aloud at the age of 9 after spending time with his sister, watching old westerns and science fiction films. He desired to take action. Everything changed with just one sentence. His dad didn't chuckle. He didn't even dispute it. "You have a snowball's chance in hell," he remarked, glancing at his kid. That was a powerful statement. It never left Sam, but it also didn't stop him. It started to sound in his mind whenever a casting agent rolled their eyes or a door slammed. And years later, it would be the reason he persisted in battling, when most others would have given up. The profoundly felt loss. Sam Elliott lost the one man he had been attempting to prove himself to in 1962, just after graduating from high school. His father had a heart attack and passed rather unexpectedly, disappeared before they could ever reconcile. There was no last conversation. There was stillness, no reconciliation. At the age of 18, Sam's resentment and ambition were still raw. However, that ambition now had nowhere to go but within himself. Soon after, he left college for a reason rather than out of disobedience. Words intended to silence him were turned into gasoline by his father. Every rejection, every unsuccessful audition, and every skeptic. He was reminded of that line. A snowball's chance in hell, by everything. However, there was now more than just uncertainty. I'm sorry. Sam would never get the opportunity to prove his abilities to his father. For years, that agony remained hidden, yet it continued to mold him. He didn't spiral. He concentrated more intently than before. His sorrow evolved into a form of self-control, a subdued fury that he channeled into action. He enlisted in the California Air National Guard in 1966 for structure rather than for combat. He worked as a loadmaster in military aircraft, figuring out weight and balance. Although it wasn't glamorous, it provided him a sense of power that acting hadn't yet given him. He had rushed across town to take acting classes after working, 12-hour shifts, weary yet unfazed. Sam wasn't merely pursuing a dream anymore. He was attempting to construct something his father didn't think was possible while escaping a ghost. He was not wanted in Hollywood. Sam had nothing and just $100 in his pocket when he finally made it to Los Angeles in 1967. He took showers when he could, slept in his car, and entered buildings covered in dust from his construction work. His voice was too odd and his appearance was too rugged. Casting directors were at a loss for what to do with a 6'2" cowboy who had a preacher's voice. Despite being turned down 87 times in his first year, he continued to show up. Eyes focused, boots worn down. Sam tightened the screws, while others gave up. He worked one day as an extra in The Way West for $50, which was his first actual job. He didn't have any lines or credit, but he did watch, listen, and learn. Then, in 1968, a miracle occurred. Judd for the defense, a courtroom play with 3 lines. At last, that voice, deep, slow, and unforgettable, was heard. The scenario was really rewritten by the producers to include him. He was now distinguished by the same baritone that had previously held him back. Nevertheless, the positions didn't pay. He earned less than $4,000 in 1968. Gas and rent took up the majority of it. However, directors gradually started to take note. He was trustworthy. He was present. 10 lines weren't necessary for him to fill a room. Sam also did something that most actors wouldn't do when Gunsmoke phoned. To get the part, he practiced dropping his voice by almost an octave. He was dubbed John Wayne's ghost for that part. Even nonetheless, there was opposition. A producer made fun of his military experience by sneering, "Being a soldier doesn't make you one." Sam nearly gave up that day. Rather, though, he promised, unless he could give it his all, he would never portray a soldier or cowboy. For him, identification was more important than performing. The woman who made all the difference. They never met, but they did share a movie once. Sam Elliott portrayed an unnamed card player in the first scene of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid back in 1969. One of the main roles was played by Catherine Ross. The film and set are identical, but there is no opening. From a distance, Sam admired her. That was all. She was brought back by fate almost 10 years later. They co-starred in the London-shot eerie thriller The Legacy in 1978. The spark was not missed this time. They portrayed romantic leads on screen. It became genuine off-screen. Ross's marriage remained intact. Despite Sam's single status, there was an obvious chemistry. Later on, he made a joke about how, during Butch Cassidy, she chased the cinematographer and he was simply a shadow on the wall. However, they and the timing had changed. After filming was finished, Ross got a divorce from her husband. She married Sam within 5 years. She has been married 5 times. It was his first time. Additionally, their daughter Cleo Rose Elliott was born a few months after the wedding. The actor who played rugged loners Sam had unexpectedly married and had a child. He was doing more than just establishing a profession for the first time. He was establishing a household. However, storm clouds were already forming in the distance, even as his personal life was blossoming. A family split up. Sam concealed his personal life for years. At home, the burly guy on film was as protective. However, that photograph was destroyed in 2011. During a dispute with her mother, Catherine Ross, his daughter Cleo Rose, who was in her mid-20s at the time, lost it. The altercation quickly became aggressive. "I want to kill you," Ross said Cleo stated to her. She used scissors to cut the phone line, kicked down a cabinet door, and repeatedly slashed her mother in the arm. Ross, aged 71, ran away and appeared in court by himself. Nobody anticipated the picture that the ensuing restraining order painted. Cleo has been violent since she was 12, according to Ross. The family Sam had worked so hard to create suddenly fell apart when police had to control her visits to the house. Being a musician had always been Cleo's dream. She studied opera, played the guitar, and aspired to be famous. However, her career halted after that. She stepped back from the limelight. She rarely appears in public. She spoke quietly. Sam remained silent. Not to the media, not to the general public. He kept quiet and did everything he could to keep the family together. Years went by. Afterward, the tabloids went on. However, recovery takes time, and it took years in this instance. Everyone believed that the riches was secure. Sam Elliott appeared to have the ideal ending by the time he was in his late 70s. Repaired family, a devoted wife, and well-received performances. He was nominated, for his first Oscar in 2018 for A Star is Born. His most eerie part to date, 1883, earned him a Screen Actors Guild Award the following year. For the first time, he was being acknowledged as a serious actor as well as a cowboy. However, there was more going on behind those standing ovations. Devastating, quiet, and subtle. A contentious interview that offended many in Hollywood sparked rumors about poor investments, shelved projects, and career consequences. Sam never talked about it in public. Although he has never been one to make excuses, people who knew him well saw changes. An unsuccessful real estate transaction, legal bills that appeared to keep coming up. After retirement rumors, there will likely be more voiceover work, roles, and appearances. Some felt it was out of necessity rather than enthusiasm. There was only a gradual, imperceptible unraveling, neither bankruptcy nor scandal. Sam had to put in more effort than before because of it. Long after the majority of celebrities his age had retired, he remained that trustworthy cowboy. His timetable, however, now felt more like a matter of survival than decision. The sort of grind you engage in when you're secretly filling up gaps that nobody else can notice. Was this about legacy, or was he quietly trying to recover from something he'd never admit? Others in his immediate vicinity started to wonder. The cowboy who refused to give up. Sam Elliott continued to work despite the weight of everything, including family scars, silent financial strain, and aging body. In 1883, he assumed one of the most significant responsibilities of his life at the age of 77. Sam performed with agony, exhaustion, and spirit as Shea Brennan, a grumpy man leading settlers across the American frontier. His character considers ending everything after cremating his wife and daughter in the opening scene. It was heartbreakingly true and eerie. It was described as a masterclass by critics. The audience was unable to turn away. Furthermore, Sam didn't boast when he accepted a Screen Actors Guild Award on stage in 2023. He simply said in a low voice that it was the most significant moment of his career while glancing out at the audience. Sam has always had that strength and that humility. He isn't going to back down, even in 2025 when he is 80 years old. He co-stars with Billy Bob Thornton in another Taylor Sheridan series, Landman. There are rumors that he may possibly make a comeback to Roadhouse in the next remake of Amazon. He continues to act, narrate, and voice ads. He doesn't have to, according to some. He can't afford not to, according to others. However, Sam never gives an explanation because, to him, simply, showing up is the task, the job is to endure, and he maintains his composure even when everything around him appears unclear. The world shifts, the roles change. Behind the eyes, however, Sam Elliott is still the same person. Unbreakable, yet not impervious. How much it actually cost him. Sam Elliott has always been selective about what he says in interviews. He is not an attention seeker. He doesn't give an explanation. However, in response to a recent question concerning the key to remaining married for more than 40 years in a community that destroys partnerships, Sam hesitated. Then he made a straightforward statement. You get past the difficult parts. You don't turn your back. He wasn't merely discussing marriage. The weight of everything he had experienced was conveyed in that silent line, which he delivered in his typical composed drawl. The daughter who once became violent, the father who never trusted him, the late arriving celebrity, and the perhaps lost money. He never placed blame. He was never a victim. Despite the trembling earth underneath him, he simply continued to move forward. For Sam Elliott, being loud has never been a part of being a guy. It is putting up with things that others cannot perceive, keeping your composure when everyone else is aware that you're breaking. And he continues to ride on at the age of 80, despite having a lifetime of scarred stories. Even though Sam Elliott may never fully share his story, his life speaks more than words ever could. Do you believe that he was ever given what he deserved by Hollywood? Or did more be taken than given? Tell us in the comments section.